And in other global news, for the first time ever, Canada's premier intelligence agency, Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, officially acknowledged Khalistani extremists on its soil.
Now, in its annual report to the Parliament, the CSIS said that only a small group of individuals are considered Khalistani extremists because they continue to use Canada as a base for the promotion, fundraising or planning of violence, primarily in India. Big admission.
India has repeatedly asked Canada to act on the Khalistani extremists and has even formally requested the extradition of over 20 from the country for various crimes committed in India.
The report explained that while there were no Canada-based Khalistani extremists, CBKES-related attacks in Canada in 2024, the involvement in violent activities continues to pose a national security threat to Canada as well as Canadian interests. It went on to say that real and perceived Khalistani extremism emerging from Canada continues to drive Indian foreign interference activities in Canada.
Now, the report comes a day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney held bilateral talks on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Alberta. After the bilateral, both sides decided to appoint new high commissioners to each other's capitals, resume trade pact negotiations, among other key measures.
Now, the meeting between the two leaders comes after ties between India and Canada were severed over the killing of pro-Khalistani leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was an India-designated terrorist in Canada.
Now, the then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had accused Indian agents of being involved in the killing. And after the incident, both the countries expelled their diplomats and significantly cut down on engagement.
All right, for more on this, WION's Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, is now joining us on the broadcast. Now, Siddhant, this is a big admission that for the first time, Canada's premier intelligence agency has acknowledged Khalistani extremists on its soil. Siddhant, what more can you tell us?
Well, a significant comment, I would say, the Intel agency report pointing out as to how the Khalistani extremists use Canada as a base for violence in India. Something that India has been saying for a pretty long time, pointing out its worry over the extremist element getting space in Canada, which of course impacts India. But essentially coming at a time when there is a thaw in the relationship, both the leaders just met and decided a slew of measures, including, of course, reinstatement of the high commissioners and, of course, trading ties as well in terms of restarting the negotiations. But it looks like that after almost 2 years of a free fall in the relationship, particularly because of the comments made by the then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, both sides are now working to put the relationship back on track. And I remember that Justin Trudeau had claimed that India was responsible and alleged, in fact, that India was responsible for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was an India-listed terrorist and a Canadian national. And no proof was, of course, given by the Canadian side. But now it really looks like that both sides have understood that it's better to mend and patch things up, and that is something we have seen. And with this report, which has come, it's for the first time in many ways that there is an acknowledgement over extremism related to Khalistanis, not only as a threat to the Canadian national security, but also leading to violence in India.
Absolutely, Siddhant. And of course, as you mentioned, this is a big development. Have we got any kind of Indian response to this report as of now, if you have any updates on that part?
Well, of course, the Indian Prime Minister right now currently was on travel. I believe he'll be reaching India very soon. And essentially, the MEA, of course, hadn't reacted much. But in many ways, it is an acknowledgement of what MEA has been saying for a pretty long time. Over last few years, India has pointed out as to how the safe havens have come up in Canada, and how essentially the fact that these are major concerns for societies of both the countries. So clearly, when it comes to response, that needs to be awaited. But this is something that India will absolutely welcome, because this is something that India has been saying.
All right. Well, Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest on this. We'll continue to track this. Thank you so much for now.